right, one of the things I was told as a student is not to answer a question the way the lecturer may frame it. And I'm going to insist on that. I think the question should rather be quality of governance in Nigeria in relation to banditry. On the floor of the Senate, and I have 2-3 senators here, I said, and I still do believe, that in seeking to understand the increasing wave of insecurity in Nigeria, we must critically evaluate the role of those in government, particularly states and local government. And I said, those beggars we ignored, Alai Baka Kabamu, I use that word on the floor of the Senate, because I live in Kaduna, and I do listen when poor people pray. They pray for the rich to get even richer, believing that when they get so rich, they will look, it will trickle down to them, and they will look at them with mercy and give them something. And I said, Ayazu Ayabasu Sukibamu.
Thank you
so
very
the
much.
Beggars of yesterday can no longer beg, too old to beg, but they were not educated, and therefore you can't empower them. Now they find that they don't need to go to school to carry AK-47. That explains why they have no difficulties living in the forest, where you and I cannot live. They have no human feeling, because we never show their human kindness, and therefore their character, their attitude to life is informed by their own very terrible background, because they were victims of the negligence of states not to send them to school and give them that support they needed so that they will grow up as decent citizens that are employable. What I said, in understanding poverty, you cannot, the people don't need the tears of those in government. If you deny a child the right to basic education, you have settled that child to incurable, greedy poverty forever.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Next is the President.
Well, thank you very much. I will not go by your question. I just want to first ask, why is it important that we discuss local government autonomy? I'm not a lawyer just to provoke my Lord, who has saved me several times. I understand that in law, you have to have an interest in a matter to be able to go to court. So if there is dispute between local government and state government, what is the jurisdiction of the federal government to go into it? But this is a rhetorical question. But I'm happy with the judgment.
I thought you wanted me to answer it.
I'm happy with the judgment because when I was president of Nigeria Labour Congress, I did join a couple of times the national protest against the government, you know, for the autonomy of local government. I'm a believer in it, and I think it is right. However, why is it important? I guess the reason that people find it worthwhile to discuss, and the matter had to go to the Supreme Court, is that there is the fact is that I did have some colleagues, some comrades who worked with me in Edo State when I was governor, and they saw the way our local governments were working. And I'm happy the leader of the House of Representatives, Professor Julius Ihobere, was secretary to government. And there's this young man who decided to go and contest election in one of in his own state of origin. He was my assistant. A few months later, he called me and said I should help him with some money to pay his bills. And I said, why? He said, he's not to get the salaries. And I said, but you are the employer. And he said, yes, he's the employer in theory, but in practice, money that comes to the local government, and this was exactly around 2012 or thereabout, they are made to sign for it as though they collected the money, and then the governor, depending on his mood, might give you 1 million. And for the first few months, he was getting that 1 million, even after he has signed, quote, and unquote, that he collected the entire allocation to the local government. And thereafter, the governor changed his mind. He sometimes doesn't even pay the 1 million, so he can no longer fit. I think that points to the seriousness of the situation. And I think this has now been resolved by the Supreme Court. What I do not think the Supreme Court has resolved, or that any court of law can resolve, is the issue of character and attitude. So freedom, autonomy to do what? Autonomy to take what the government used to take is now to be taken by council chairman. If so, what will change? So I think the issues are far more complex, beyond autonomy from state, autonomy by local government from state control.
Distinguished Senator, sir, not to digress a lot, there's a reason I asked you about Section 7. If you are able to look at it from the context of Section 7, it will guide us.
From the
context of Section 7, it will guide us on this journey.
Read the Section 7.
Section 7. Section 7 establishes that local governments do exist in one breath. In another breath, puts them under the control of the Houses of Assembly, who in turn make laws for the good governance of local governments. That is what the Constitution says today.
And I think that makes perfect sense, because even at the federal level, no, I'm not going to be a lawyer here. That's why I asked you to read the exhibit to the court, in the open court, so I can comment based on what you have read.
Sorry, sir. Go ahead, sir.
We operate on the basis of separation of powers at all levels of government. So if the government has to interact and is subject to the oversight and the appropriation by the National Assembly, and this, I think it's the same principle that the House of Assembly set a broad law. However, the state, for the local government, but each of the local government also have their own parliament, which is made of elected councillors. They are the one who are supposed to appropriate the money that accrues to the local government, and also carry out oversight function, exactly the same way as the House of Assembly is supposed to carry out oversight function over the activities of state government, and the National Assembly carry out oversight function over the federal government. But the point I want to deal with, not necessarily the manner that you want it, but the manner that I understand it.
Go ahead, sir.
I think the crisis that we face today is that whereas monies are allocated to these 3 tiers of government as prescribed in the Nigeria Constitution, it is arguable whether the money trickles down to the people. Now, I find from my own experience, and I'm going to talk about Edo State experience now, and I guess that is why you listed me here, not as a lawyer. I found that in Edo State, we did not interfere with the revenue accruing to each of the local governments. The actual amount is determined at the FAC level. So each local government knows what is accruing to it. Whether or not it collects it is a different matter. But in Edo State, we allowed that joint account as prescribed under the Constitution, and each of the states, each of the local government knew exactly what accrues to them. I decided then, as the state governor, that I will have nothing to do with the local government. They should be supervised by the deputy governor's office. And like I think Governor Alero said, in our time we said, if they are going to incur any expenses over and above 10 million naira, they do need to justify it before the deputy governor, to whom I delegated that authority. However, what was the problem that we tried to cure? I mean, what level of interference? I interfere in dictating to the local government that whatever they want to do, they are free, provided they have paid the salaries of primary school teachers, which under the Constitution is within the purview of the local government. Once they have paid the salaries of primary school teachers, if they decide not to pay their own salaries of their employees, that is their business. But I will not accept that in the name of autonomy, money arrive at the local government headquarters, they meet under the tree, share the money, and at the end of the day, primary school teachers are not paid. And as a consequence, it's quite common to hear primary school teachers going on strike for months. And between Professor Hobere as Secretary of Government, myself, and some other officials of the state government, we dutifully ensure that the primary school teachers in Edo State were paid, and that other obligations that the Constitution provides for. Because let us just talk about the autonomy to receive money. They also have obligation to spend those money in a manner that will affect the development of their respective localities.
Thank you, sir.
Number 2.
2 minutes, sir.
2 minutes, you are very generous. Let me just point out one or two things. One of the things I discovered, this is not the creation of local government now, was that whether the federal government or the Constitution, I'm not too sure, is that local government don't even have the power to appoint, to employ their employees, to discipline their employees, or to transfer their employees. That power, I was told, is vested in Local Government Service Commission.
Very true.
Now, what did I discover? I found that in Edo State we have 18 local governments. Depending on the feelings or manipulations of the Local Government Service Commission, they could choose to transfer more teachers. This is not the governor now. Transfer more teachers from one local government to another local government. So some local government find teachers who are not from that local government, who are not necessarily so qualified, being transferred to their local government, and they will now be compelled to pay their salaries. As a consequence, some local government, by the time they finish paying salaries, they have absolutely nothing left. Even more worrisome, I discovered, Director of Personnel, to those who are familiar with local government, I found that one local government has about 6 directors of personnel, and some other local government, incidentally, even the one in the heart of Benin, the largest local government, they did not even have one.
Thank you,
when
sir.
I ask, it is the Local Government Service Commission that pick and chooses who to employ, who to discipline, and who to transfer. Lastly, you know this question. No, one second.
You know why?
This point, because I will have another opportunity.
You
please,
will, sir. I can assure you will, sir. You will,
no. Because I have to leave. I have to leave.
On my word, you will.
When,
so that you don't run away.
We have, no, I have to go because I have other assignment. There is this point that we always quote. You know, Obama says, build strong institutions and not strong men. Nice statement. My question is how? The Independent National Electoral Commission is independent. What it does with its own independence, up to the people who are there. There are several, the Nigerian judiciary is completely independent. So what I found different is that we must not underplay the issue of character. When President Trump sacked the CIA director, I didn't know that the CIA director has such, the president has the power to dismiss a CIA director. And yet that CIA director is on record as saying that when President Trump invited him for one-on-one conversation, he felt so uncomfortable because he couldn't see himself sitting with the president because he's not supposed to do so. In Nigeria, by the time President Trump sacked the CIA director, I said, so this man is under the control of the American president. But he understands the law that set up the office of the director of CIA, and he will not go to mortgage it. So what we need to discuss in Nigeria,
we have moved
is
from
character.
Section 7 to CIA and Trump.
Yeah, because it came under the presentation.
I asked the question, sir, with all due respect. Let me also follow up a question that is important to you.
Like Governor Alero have just told you, we have nothing to do with the funds of the local government. Because President Obasanjo was vehemently that there should be separation of power. And we maintained that separation of power, that no governor, no body should touch the fund of the local government. The fund of local government, what we did, there was local government commission, and the local government worked with local government commission to discuss. They go to JAC, they go to discuss their programs, they make budgets on what they have to do every year. On their budget, it will be inspected by local government service commission and all the agencies headed by a permanent secretary, civil servant. So they also have some mechanism where they meet with few traditional rulers that time in their local government to discuss the projects they are going to be doing. So those projects they were doing helps. By then you can see a councillor, a supervisory councillor, giving contracts to construct culverts. This is not what I'm seeing today. You can see a supervisory councillor deciding that he will pay for this gutter constructed. So we have nothing absolutely. In fact, the deputy speaker was a local government chairman. So he knows what I'm saying. So they know that the state government in our time have nothing to do with local government money.
What has changed, distinguished senator?
What?
What has changed?
I don't know what have changed. Possibly greed. Possibly greed.
Possibly greed.
Greed. Because we always reminded them that the local government fund is made for local government and the state government fund is made for us. Even when we speak in the level of governors forum, these are, Adama Elero is here also. These are things we say separate our fund. Because the Constitution made it very clear. There are 3 tiers of government. We don't have 2 tiers of government. It's not true. The tiers of government are 3. The federal government, the state government, and the local government. So everyone should be financially independent. Let me be honest to you. If I am to say, I'm not a lawyer, if I am to say the judgment of the Supreme Court is amendment of the Constitution, nobody should go anything. The National Assembly have no reason to amend any section of the Constitution. We do respect His Lordship, Justice Baggy, His Royal Highness. I am saying it on my opinion. In anywhere in the world, anywhere you have the Supreme Court of a country pronounce on a section of the law that is nullified, it's nullified.
Thank you.
It doesn't make any meaning what anybody else says. Because that section of the law should be fully implemented. The local government body should go to local government directly now from yesterday.
Thank you. Thank you, distinguished Senator Oji Uzokalu. Distinguished Senator Oji Uzokalu, you are a progressive Democrat. You were also governor in Abia for 8 years.
After President Olusegun Obasanjo directed that all states should open what we call local government joint account in line with the provisions of the 1999 Constitution, where all funds meant for the local government will be channeled into that account. And in addition to that, 10% of whatever the state government generates should also be put into that joint account. And the State Assembly is requested to pass a revenue allocation formula where money will be distributed to all the local government councils based on the revenue allocation formula passed by the State Assembly. So we were doing this close to about 1.5 years. Suddenly, this JAC account came up. And even then, we
diligently and strictly adhered to the directive given to us. All allocations meant for local government councils were put into the local government joint account. And whatever revenue we generate, we put 10% of that amount into the JAC account, and then the money is shared among them. To ensure accountability and transparency in the management of the resources of the state, we had what we call Department of Local Government, headed by a permanent secretary, not even a commissioner. And all expenditure worth above 500,000 naira will have to be approved by the Department of Local Government Council, that is, by the permanent secretary. And we also have inspectors that go to inspect projects executed by the local government councils. As you all know, the 1999 Constitution has prescribed certain responsibilities to local government councils. In particular, they are in charge of primary and adult education. They are equally in charge of primary health care. They are equally in charge of construction of roads, sanitation, and what have you. Construction of drainages. And they are also involved in what we call economic development of the local government and even that of the state. And quite honestly, they are doing very well during our own tenure. And on the issue of election, we had what we call a State Independent Electoral Commission. And during my own tenure, I made sure that we conducted free and fair election, to the extent that even the opposition party, by then, won quite a number of councillors. They didn't win chairmanship position.
Was that deliberate?
Hold on. They didn't win chairmanship position, but they won over 30 councilorships. And to a large extent, it's a radical departure from what is happening now, where no councillor will be won by opposition party.
Your Excellency, the issue of INEC and how elections are conducted will come in the next session.
Yeah.
I just want us to limit ourselves, particularly in the area of accountability. Now, I have asked about accountability because you also see that chairmen are elected, they become chairmen, they are not accountable to anybody. How did you manage it in your time, specifically? 2 more minutes.
I'll come again.
Thank you very much.
There's water. There's water.
Thank you very much, Malik, for that question. Let me start by answering your first question, which says about taking ownership of the Supreme Court judgment. Let me start by, first of all, expressing our gratitude to the federal government through the Office of the Attorney General and indeed the Supreme Court for that bold judgment that has re-emphasized the independence of local government, particularly as it affects their financial autonomy, and also all other stakeholders, the National Assembly, for also giving the necessary legislative intervention to be able to ensure that that financial autonomy is guaranteed. And going back to the question now, ALGON, as the umbrella body of the 774 local government councils across the country, actually started work immediately after the pronunciation of the judgment, which we recognize the importance of, first of all, building synergies with ministries, the agencies and departments of government to be able to put or align their programs and policies in the new context of local government autonomy, so that whatever the federal government is doing will now be in line with refocusing their attention towards local government as a third tier of government. We've been able to carry out a lot of meetings and visits to these MDAs and agencies of government to intimate the leadership of these MDAs on the need to now rechannel their policies and programs towards the local government as the critical tier of government that is very close to the people. And we've been receiving positive responses from those. And as well as also establishing linkages and carrying advocacies to civil society groups and development partners. We've been able to do that, and we are happy to say that development partners like USAID, UNICEF, and a host of others have now recalibrated their approach to providing interventions in the local government by working directly with the local government. And so we are providing the coordination at the Algon to make sure that that is achieved. And then again, we are also engaged in planning for capacity building sessions and workshops for the local government executives and the officials for them to be able to take up their responsibilities seriously, to scale up the capacity of local government institutions, to be able to take the responsibilities of taking care of primary education, primary health care. As we are all aware, that local governments have only been supervising these key areas which are constitutionally mandated to play active leadership role in. So now with this autonomy and of course the intervention that is currently going on, like forum like this at the National Assembly, we believe as we move forward, local governments will be able to take their rightful position and be able to take leadership roles in these critical areas of our mandate, such as primary health care, security, and what have you. And so all these will help in actually building confidence and making sure that the local government executives have taken complete ownership and control of these critical institutions of governance at the grassroots level, thereby ensuring there is good governance and accountability. And then going to your second question about how the LGAs can actually take real ownership. I believe sessions like this with distinguished senators and members of the National Assembly are very timely because